Hi there, welcome back to Pulse TV Live. I am Missy Molu, and of course, you know, today is Tuesday and it's all about the technology and the things surrounding the technology. Right now here with me, I have the very lovely, very beautiful, you look gorgeous today, Deborah Omeruah. Hi Debbie, how are you?
Hi Missy, I'm fine, thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you do. You're in the real estate world.
Yes,
Can you break that down just a little bit?
Okay, so I work for a company called Landmark, and basically what I do is I work in business development and real estate finance.
Okay.
So it's basically we have projects, and my role is to go out there and try and find funding to help us develop these fantastic buildings that we're building.
Okay.
And then also find investors who want to come in and invest in real estate. And then the back end of it, which is the tenants that are going to come in and occupy the real estate.
Yeah.
So that's what I
lovely.
do.
So these buildings that you build, are they always commercial buildings or they're residences, or what are they exactly?
Okay, so we have a mixed use live, work, play concept. So what we're trying to do is have a combination of mainly commercial, because that's where our background is.
Yeah.
So commercial being offices. Then there is an element of retail and leisure, so that's the play side of things, and then the live side of things is the residential accommodation. So what we do with our buildings, we started off doing the whole live, work, play concept in one building.
Okay.
So you'd have one building that would maybe have retail on the ground floor, commercial units on the upper floors, and then on top floor would have maybe residential accommodation.
Okay.
And now what we're doing is expanding that live, work, play concept and having it across the entire site. So for example, we have a project at the Landmark Village that has 8 buildings, I think, and it has retail, it has a convention center, has a hotel, residential apartments, office towers. Okay. So that's more of a live, work, play on a wider scale across many, many buildings.
Okay. So have you, how long is that project going to take for it to be ready?
There's a 5-year development timeline. We've started now, so we're finishing the first phase, which we did the convention center, and we're bringing in Hard Rock Cafe and Shiro. So that's sort of the play side. So convention center, we had many weddings and shows and concerts. Then Hard Rock Cafe and Shiro restaurant, that's the sort of retail side of things, restaurants. And then the next phase is the hotel development and the residential apartments. And then the final phase will be the office towers. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Really impressive.
Yeah, so we're about a year in and we have another 4 years to go, I think.
Okay, fantastic. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, so all right, so now with the real estate, with everything that's going on and all that stuff, how is everything working out? Especially with elections that just, you know, we just, you know, culminated, finished, yes.
Finished,
you know,
yes.
yes. They were just, you know, finished with the elections. How's it affected, like, the industry?
I think in the first half of this year, I mean, one of the great things about real estate is the fact that it's a very resilient industry. So things might slow down a bit, but you never really suffer too much. Even when the market drops slightly, real estate doesn't really fall in that sense. Some of the difficulties we faced based on the elections and everything that's been happening with the dollar is a lot of our international investors, maybe because of the perception of Nigeria, they weren't sure what was going to happen with the elections, and thank God everything went smoothly. Okay. And with the way the Naira had devalued over time, so there was some concern. So I think the main impact was maybe that slowdown in foreign investment and foreign clients looking into Nigeria. Most of them wanted to wait it out, see what's going to happen, and I think things will pick up again by the end of the year. But you know, it's a very, very strong industry. It doesn't falter for long.
Lovely. Okay, so when people say the real estate market crashes, it doesn't really crash.
It just means it's not experiencing the major growth that you would typically see with real estate. What normally happens when they say there's a real estate crash, it just means the level of growth. So if you're seeing like 30%, 40% growth over time, which we did see, you know, a few years back, it maybe means the growth has moved, you know, fallen to, let's say, 5-10%, which is still a pretty good place to have your money, because not many investments that you would have where you would enjoy that type of growth. So it's when they say the crash, I don't really believe that there's a real estate crash. It just means there's a slowdown in the growth.
Right, I see. Okay, so now, I mean, that's what's going on in the real estate industry right now, right? So things are going well.
Yes,
relatively
I'd say.
well. Yes. Okay. So now, how, for example, you know, now is the age of the internet, and it's literally taken over the world. So how would you say with the real estate market, and then with the social media platforms, technology, how have they merged, and how has it affected the industry?
I think with technology, it's one of those things, no matter what industry you're in order to stay relevant, you've got to move with the times, you've got to move with technology. So, I mean, I'd say with social media, one of the great things about social media is it gives that kind of instant access to information, and it works both ways. So we have instant access to information, we have instant access to our clients and our tenants or potential tenants, because you can just put your information out there and you get immediate feedback. And you can also market whatever you're doing. So Hard Rock Cafe should be opening at the end of the year, so we've been putting sort of feelers out there and little teasers that coming soon and that kind of thing, and it helps build some kind of momentum. Now, typically in the past, you would have to put out flyers, maybe take out advertising in the newspaper or whatever it is you would need to do to market your business. Now you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WeChat, and all these other things that are out there, and you can put your information out there. You can market your products instantly, and you can get instant responses, so people give you feedback saying, oh, how exciting, oh really, you're bringing Hard Rock, fantastic. Whenever we have events at the convention center, you put pictures out there, so a lot of times maybe before some of the blogs get it, you're out there, you're just as relevant as the blogs, because you have an event, a concert, and you've got pictures as well, so people are coming to you to see, okay, who was there, what was happening, what did it look like, what was their decor like, that kind of thing. So it's very, very relevant, and it's a fantastic new development, I think, that real estate can use this medium to put itself out there and just be, I mean, it's not the coolest thing to be on social media, but there are people who are interested, and now even people who maybe didn't know they were interested, they have access to what we're doing.
For, I mean, as far as you're concerned, it's like a pro as opposed to being a con.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely a pro. I mean, anything that can give you instant access to information is a good thing. I mean, the one thing that may not necessarily work to our advantage is a lot of the major sort of CEOs and decision makers, they're not necessarily on social media. So it's about making sure you understand what kind of market that you're targeting. So you would find that a lot of the major decision makers who are going to decide whether or not they're going to invest in your building or decide on whether or not they're going to be a tenant in your building, they're not on Twitter, or they're not active on these mediums. But what's important is that a lot of the people that work with them or work under them, as long as they've heard your name, or they've seen your logo, or they recognize you, your name will get mentioned to those decision makers. So you just need to make sure that the information you're putting out there is relevant to the market that will be on Twitter, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, and every single market is different. So you just got to make sure you're addressing the right kind of market.
So what would be the bad side of it?
The bad side of it, well, with everything on social media, it's feedback, and you can't make everyone happy. So if you have a client that's in your building and your company name is on Twitter, for example, and they're unhappy because, I don't know, there's no fuel, we're all queuing for petrol, you can't buy diesel for your generator, they may get upset and they may put something negative out there. Now, this is one person's opinion, and in most buildings you have hundreds and thousands of occupants, but most people tend to relate better to negative comments than to positive, and most people are more likely to post negative feedback than they are to post positive feedback. You have to actively seek positive feedback, but with negative feedback you don't even have to seek that. It comes to you
for free.
For free, yes. And so there's a lot of that you have to be wary of, and you have to understand how to manage it so you're not coming off defensive. You have to keep it light and say, oh, and then make sure you post something on there to let people know that it's been resolved. So it just, I guess it's a good thing in a way. It kind of forces you to improve the level of service and, to communicate better with your clients and your audience that are out there. So I guess every negative has its positives.
And it constantly keeps you on your toes as well.
It really does, yes.
Fantastic.
It does.
So what do you foresee for the real estate industry? I know the landmark, is it the Landmark Village? Yes, is going to be ready,
different phases are going to be ready at different times. So the first phase ended this year, the next phase maybe in a couple of years, and then the final phase within the next four years. All
right. So for example, so once that's done, obviously the company will be undergoing and undertaking different projects, right?
Yes,
So you're just not solely focused on that.
Yes. Yeah.
So what else, I mean, are we expecting? I mean, you're bringing Hard Rock Cafe to Nigeria.
I mean,
so obviously, as you know, that place is not just going to be for the residents only.
No.
Yeah. So
you take that into consideration. So because it's an entire site, I mean, it's a 40,000 square meter site, and you've got the convention center, so already it's open to the public.
Of course.
So you have to manage the different types of occupants you have in the building or on the site. So the residential side will be cordoned off. It will have its own entrance, security, etc. So you manage that, and then you've got the office buildings as well. They want a level of privacy, particularly during the weekdays. So you just want to make sure that when there's an event happening, it doesn't affect the offices, it doesn't affect the residences. So it's all about how you plan your master plan. You have different access routes for the different uses. Make sure there's sufficient parking. Parking is one of the biggest issues we have in Nigeria with real estate. So we're building multi-story car parks, we're building multi-level parking underneath our buildings, just to make sure that if your site is completely full, there's an event, people are at Hard Rock, people are in the offices, people are in the hotel, people are in the residences, you can all park. You're not getting in each other's way. The traffic is flowing smoothly, and it's a nice site to be on. A lot of times, I think developers kind of think of parking as an afterthought. They build the building, they're like, oh, whoops, where are people going to park? So they park on the streets, they park in the neighbor's building, they park all over the place. So it's a great master plan that we have for the site, and we've considered all of those things. And it overlooks the Atlantic Ocean, so you can go there and have a nice beachfront, setting. Yeah, it's very nice.
Oh, very good. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with the Landmark Village, and then of course, I was asking, what other do you have, like other projects in mind that you guys are going to be bringing in that you can talk about?
So we have quite a lot on our pipeline. We have. We're trying to move along the Lekki axis. Now, what you find with the Lekki axis is because of the development of that Lekki-Aja Expressway, it's opened up opportunities in that side, and I think over time, you've seen that the central business district has moved from like Lagos Island to Ikoyi, now Victoria Island, and our view is that it will continue to move along that Lekki-Aja axis with the development of the airport, the Lekki airport, the free trade zone, the fourth mainland bridge. I think it's going to get busier along that axis. So what we do is we do a lot of land banks. So we're buying land along that axis, and as it grows, we've got an even bigger site. It's twice the size of the Landmark Village, called the Landmark City. It's about 80,000 square meters, and that's going to have sort of a golf course. It's going to have a clubhouse, hotels, residential units. So where Landmark Village has residential apartments, there'll be townhouses, there'll be flats, there'll be hotels, offices, a retail strip. So we're trying to maybe move out of that whole retail mall concept that's growing in Nigeria, and it's fantastic, the whole retail concept that's growing in Nigeria. So we want to bring retail out of the malls and have the retail strips that in the Western world, the Oxford Streets and the like. So that's one of the things we're going to develop along Landmark City.
That's going to be a little. I mean, it's exciting. It sounds challenging as well.
It's extremely challenging, but hey,
someone's
got to do it. It's hard work. You have to find financing. You have to find people who want to, take up space in the buildings. But there is such a huge demand in Nigeria. Nigeria is so underdeveloped when it comes to real estate there, and our economy is growing. It really is. So there's a lot of foreign interest. There's a huge housing deficit that we're trying to fill. There's, I think, a 17 million unit housing deficit that needs to be filled. So the more residential units you can build, the closer you are to, plugging that gap. You have a lot of international companies looking to come into Nigeria. One of the major issues they have is finding adequate office space. A lot of times they're in, converted houses, which have been converted to office spaces, or they're in accommodation that isn't quite up to the standard that they're used to in, wherever country they're coming from. So one of the things that Landmark likes to do is to address that need and create real grade A office buildings, but not at the crazy prices that people are used to in Nigeria. So we do a lot of value engineering. So by value engineering, what we try and do is to reduce the cost of construction by seriously thinking about how we're going to build, what's the most economic way to build something that's really beautiful, but isn't going to cost a fortune, because the more expensive it is to build, the more expensive your rents have to be, because you have to be able to make your money back.
Of course.
So one of the, I think, value propositions is that we can build very good real estate at a competitive price, so that those international clients can come in, they see a building that they like, it meets their security standards, health and safety standards, it's open plan and beautiful and pretty and all of those things, and it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg.
Oh wow, that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's the landmark.
So that landmark city now is going to win.
Well, gosh, we're developing the master plan at the moment. So, with real estate, there's so many different phases that you go through. You first have to find the site, then you have to go through a long-winded perfection process, which we hope that the new government will help us, smooth out and make it less cumbersome. Then you have to have a concept for what you actually want to do on the site. So we've already explained the concept. It takes a lot to develop a concept. You have to understand what's feasible in the market, what people want, what people are looking for, what kind of price points you can get. So that's the feasibility study stage. We've done that. So now we're developing the master plan just to figure out what's the best use for the site. What percentage will be residential, what percentage will be retail, offices, where will the clubhouse be, the golf course, etc. Because, you just want to make sure that you're making the best use of the entire site. Once we have that master plan, you can't really build everything all together. It'll cost you hundreds of millions. So you phase it out. Then you have to decide what phase comes first based on who you have available to take up the space, because we're not speculative. If we had millions and millions of dollars, we would probably be speculative and just build it and wait for the tenants to come. But you have to sort of be clever about how you do things. So you have a concept and then you try and sell that concept to a client. Once they're interested, they make a commitment deposit, then you start building. Then that way you have an actual person or an actual client that you're building for. You build to their specifications and you build to their timelines. And if you're looking for financing, that really helps, because they see that there is an end user for what you're developing, and there's money that's going to be coming in once you finish. So that's really the best way to structure these sorts of things.
Oh my goodness. Well, it sounds like a lot of work.
It's hard work. It is.
But it's something that you enjoy.
Oh no, I really enjoy it because it's challenging, and I'm one of those people, I enjoy a challenge. I can't, sit down doing nothing. I like the fact that we're building these great buildings, because you do get a sense of achievement once you see, okay, this thing was on paper a few years ago, now I'm seeing a real building. Now my client that I was negotiating with and making these promises with has his keys and he's moving in. It's an amazing sense of fulfillment that you can do that. And one of the things I love about real estate in Nigeria is you have to develop to create buildings. In most things in Nigeria, you can import everything: clothes, shoes, hair, whatever it is that you want to import, even furniture, even though you're not technically allowed to. You can't import buildings. Of course, you have to build those buildings. And on any site, you're employing hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. They're under employment for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on how long the development timeline is. So it creates employment. It's fantastic to see the security guard, for example, that started off when the site was still greenfield, there was nothing there, and he's a security guard once the building's filled. You've provided employment for one human being for an entire 3-4 year timeline. And it's fantastic. So people kind of underestimate the impact that real estate development has. It's not just seeing beautiful buildings. There's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot of benefits or value add it has for the economy and for people as a whole.
How do you deal with competitors? Because like how you're talking about Landmark Village, Landmark City.
There are many others that we're not going to talk about too. So we have competitors. As I said, with Landmark, and with any industry, there are competitors. Of course. But with Landmark, what we try and do is the value engineering. What we have found has given us that edge is that a lot of our competitors, their price points may not necessarily be as low as ours, because they may not necessarily make that extra effort to do the value engineering to reduce the cost of development. A lot of times people have this perception, maybe it's just an African or Nigerian mentality, I'm not sure what it is, that if it's not expensive, then it's no good. But that's not true. You can actually build really good, expensive looking buildings, and you're probably building it at the same cost. It's just that you're having those high quality. You're having those conversations with your contractors. You're looking at the best way to build the building. What kind of structural techniques can we use that will be faster? Because the faster you can get things out, the cheaper it is for you as well. So I think that's the edge we get with our competitors. But You know, they're out there. When you're building a building, what's very important is to understand what other buildings will be delivered at the same time that yours will be delivered. Sometimes people focus on the buildings that are available now, but your building is going to take you 2-3 years to develop. So you need to look at, okay, what buildings are starting now that will also be finished in 2-3 years. Those are your competitors. Because by the time, if you're comparing yourselves to buildings now, by the time yours is done, they're old.
Yes, exactly.
Yours is a nice, new, fresh, beautiful looking thing. So you need to know what other new, fresh, beautiful looking thing is on the market so that you can make sure that your pricing works in line with theirs. And we do a lot of mystery shopping as well. You know, pretend where agents go. We say, oh, you know, we've heard about this landmark office. We're looking at that as well. What do you think? Because it's also good to know what your competitors are saying about your building. So yeah, that's how we deal with competitors.
Very good. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, from everything that you said, it's sort of given us an insight into the real estate world that I had no clue really existed, because you see these things. And for example, just one, Hard Rock Cafe is coming to Nigeria. I can't believe that, right? And then it's like the whole Landmark Village is going to happen, and then the Landmark City is going to happen, and it's very much like, oh, okay. So there are other options apart from that one that people keep talking about, or there's this other one, or there's that other one, that sort of thing. So there are options, and then it's very also, I believe it just gives one a sense of a good feeling to know that so much thought has gone into it to say, okay, you know what, we don't want to spend this amount of money, we're trying to keep costs down, so therefore rent doesn't need to be that high. Because a lot of people just think, oh, okay, these guys are just going to come build and they just want to collect people's money, basically. That's very informative.
I'm glad that we're able to sort of, you know, remove that myth. A lot of times what happens is you see buildings and nobody knows all the work or effort. It just kind of arrives and they're like, oh yeah, there's Hard Rock. They didn't realize there were years and years and years of planning to get them here, and, you know, importing of materials and dealing with all those things and costs. And, you know, if anyone goes to the Landmark Village site now for an event, they'll see the Hard Rock Cafe being built. But because, you know, obviously it hasn't yet, it's not open yet, you don't see the sign, but you're just wondering, what's that building? One day you wake up and suddenly you're like, okay, there's the big guitar. Wait, hold on, where did that come from?
Exactly.
That's what usually happens.
What happens.
But there's a lot of stuff that happens in the background to create that building. And there is really a huge myth. You think a nice, beautiful building has to be expensive, and it really doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not crazy expensive.
It doesn't need to be that expensive. So it's almost accessible.
Yeah, it's more accessible than people think. Yeah.
That's what we should use. Not almost, more accessible.
Yeah, more.
Okay, for a certain, you know, obviously, not, you know, we understand. Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Without you having to go into too much detail. All right, Deborah, excuse me. Yes,
fine.
Okay, all right. But thank you very much for informing us with all that information about. We're learning about obviously the real estate industry and, you know, the benefits. Obviously, social media in and out. Yes, it happens. Everybody's a part of it now and everything. And it's great to know about all these new projects that are happening and what we, you know, absolutely should be looking forward to.
Yes, I hope so.
That's very, very wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Missy.
All right, guys. So this is Deborah Omeruah, who is business development, real estate, and financier.
Also,
yes, for Landmark. Yes, it's just the Landmark, basically. And yeah, I am Missy Molu. As you know, this is Pulse TV Live, so keep it locked, and we'll see you guys in just a little bit.